The key moment, she said, came when she realized that she was Julia Roberts and that she was married to Lyle Lovett.
Welcome back to Hollywood Bulletin, where movie magic comes alive with the stories behind your favorite stars. If you think you know everything about Pretty Woman, think again. Because what happened off camera between Julia Roberts and Richard Gere might just change how you see this classic forever. Stay with us till the end for some surprising moments, unforgettable chemistry, and revelations straight from Julia herself that have never been told like this before. When Pretty Woman debuted in 1990, it wasn't just a hit, it became a cultural phenomenon, turning Julia Roberts and Richard Gere into Hollywood's ultimate dream duo overnight. Their on-screen love felt so real because behind the scenes, their connection was genuine and electric. Now, at 57, Julia is finally opening up about those heartwarming, funny, and even awkward moments with Richard that made their bond so special. The film told the story of Vivian Ward, a young escort in Hollywood, and Edward Lewis, a wealthy businessman who unexpectedly fall in love during a week-long arrangement. While the plot was sweet and unforgettable, the real magic happened when the cameras weren't rolling. Despite early doubts from critics, audiences fell head over heels, helping the movie earn over $463 million globally and become the most successful rated release by Disney for decades. But it wasn't just the numbers, fans felt the realness in Julia and Richard's chemistry, and that's because a lot of it was real. Julia even won a Golden Globe and snagged nominations for an Oscar and a BAFTA, skyrocketing her to superstardom. And the spark didn't fade. They reunited again in 1999 for Runaway Bride, reminding everyone why their chemistry was timeless. But did you know they weren't the original picks? Julia wasn't the first choice, and neither was Richard. The original title, $3,000, hinted at a much darker story where Vivian was a drug addict, and the ending was heartbreakingly bleak. Luckily, that version never made it to screen. After some major rewrites and studio changes, the movie transformed into the romantic comedy we all love today. Julia almost missed out. Other actresses like Drew Barrymore and Winona Ryder were considered but deemed too young. Julia, just a few years older, landed the role that changed everything. As for Edward Lewis, big stars like Al Pacino and Burt Reynolds passed on the part. Richard wasn't interested at first either, calling the character too dull, until Julia's bold charm during a meeting changed his mind with a handwritten note that said, "Please say yes." That sweet moment sealed the deal and helped make movie history. Behind the charm and smiles, Pretty Woman almost starred a completely different cast. Even the role of Kid, Vivian's best friend, was offered to several big names, including Demi Moore and Mary Steenburgen. But ultimately, Laura San Giacomo brought the perfect balance of sass and heart. These casting twists prove that sometimes the best things happen by chance. The movie's title came from Roy Orbison's 1964 song, which gave it a romantic and lighter touch that helped audiences fall in love with it. Julia has always spoken about how fun the filming was, and now she's finally sharing even more about those behind-the-scenes moments that brought her and Richard closer. One of the most surprising things? The 8-year age gap between Julia and Richard. At just 22, Julia held her own beside a seasoned actor like Gere, who was 40 at the time. She had one condition: no nudity. And director Gary Marshall respected that completely, showing how Julia set her boundaries with confidence. Despite the age difference, her performance shined, charming both the audience and her co-stars. When they reunited for Runaway Bride, the age gap seemed less noticeable. Julia was now a household name, and their roles were more balanced. Maggie was a strong, independent woman, not a young escort. The chemistry was still there, and fans loved seeing them together again in a story full of warmth and second chances. But did you know some of the movie's best moments weren't even in the script? Like the scene where Edward snaps the necklace box shut, making Julia laugh. That was all Richard's idea. The necklace itself was worth $250,000, and a guard had to be on set the entire time to protect it. Or the scene where a snail flies across. The restaurant director Gary Marshall tossed it himself just to make the moment feel real. He even reused the line, "It happens all the time," in The Princess Diaries. These small improvisations added charm and authenticity to the film, making it even more memorable. Then there's the unforgettable piano scene, completely unscripted. Richard actually played his own composition, adding emotional depth to his character in a way no script ever could. This raw, spontaneous creativity gave the film its heart and soul. The story of how Julia and Richard first met is just as sweet. Julia flew to New York to meet Richard at his apartment, feeling nervous but bold. When Gary Marshall stepped out, Julia looked Richard in the eye and said, "If you don't do this movie and I lose the job, it'll be terrible." That honesty struck a chord. Richard agreed, and that decision shaped both of their careers. Julia often reflects on how close the film came to not being made. After being cast, she briefly lost the role when the original studio shut down. Disney stepped in and changed the tone from dark to hopeful, allowing her to audition again and ultimately keep the part. The rest, as they say, is history. There's always been talk about a possible sequel. Richard recently shared that he'd only return if the script is strong enough. Fans have long wondered what happened after that final kiss and the song, "It." Must have been love. Richard admitted he didn't initially connect with the character, but Gary Marshall convinced him that with Julia, they'd find the heart of Edward together. And that's exactly what happened. They created something. Heartfelt, fun, and sexy, all built on trust and joy. Julia, however, thinks the movie wouldn't be made the same way today. In an interview, she said times have changed too much, politically, culturally, and even stylistically, for a film like Pretty Woman to resonate the same way. But she still believes in its magic and is deeply grateful for the opportunities it brought her. And here's a twist that fans didn't see coming. Julia's personal theory about what happened to Edward and Vivian after the movie ended. In a fun 2023 interview, she joked that Edward died peacefully in his sleep from a heart attack, and now Vivian runs his company. That bittersweet idea had fans buzzing. Could Vivian really have transformed into a powerful CEO? It adds a whole new layer to her journey, proving that Pretty Woman isn't just a love story. It's about transformation, confidence, and rising above your past. Even decades later, the movie's impact lives on, reminding us all that real magic comes from great storytelling, undeniable chemistry, and a little bit of serendipity. If you are captivated by this behind-the-scenes look at Julia Roberts and Richard Gere's unforgettable bond, don't miss more legendary stories from the golden age of Hollywood. Subscribe to Hollywood Bulletin and press the bell icon so you never miss a moment of the drama, the history, and the untold truth behind your favorite stars.